we're getting started in Illustrator, a couple things are key to begin with. We want to make sure that our artboard is set up to 8 inches by 8 inches, so we'll set our units to inches and change our dimensions. You can just type in 8 in both the width and the height. Click OK. And I'm going to now load some artwork that I have ready for this demonstration. The key for your artwork is that you want to make sure all of the elements don't bleed across the edge of your artboard. So all of my shapes are contained and they don't cross over into the gray. So in order to make this demonstration work, that's a major consideration. So we're going to select all of these elements, and we can do so in a couple of different ways. From our layers menu, we can click the checkbox next to our layer. Click off of that. You can also drag your tool out and select everything with your lasso. Now I'm going to group them together by coming up to Object and Grouping, and that'll put them all in one container, which makes them very easy to work with. Now we need to create 3 more layers because we're going to be dividing this item up into 4 parts. Now I'm going to change the options on this layer from blue to a different color so I don't get confused because layer 1 was already blue. This just helps you visually keep your files separate. So I'm going to copy that group that I made earlier, and now I need to select layer 2 and paste a copy of that in there. When I hit Command V, it pastes the file but slightly off from the other one. So I want to hit Shift Command V, and that's going to place the file exactly on top of the other one. And now I'll just duplicate the file again, making sure I select each layer from the layer menu before I paste the item. So now I have 4 copies of it, and I'm going to drag out some guides. The guides are going to help me when I am making my cuts of my artwork. So I'm going to drag those out and I'm going to adjust each one to make sure they're exactly centered on the document. I'll put those on their own layer and I'll lock it so I can't edit it. Now I'm going to make each layer disappear except for the one that I'm working with. So I'll start with layer 1 and I'll leave it visible. I'll come over to my rectangle tool, and right now you see how I can't draw out a tool. It's because I am selected on a layer that's not visible. So if you're ever getting that error, that's why. If I click, I can now create a rectangle, and I want to make that 4 inches by 4 inches exactly, and I will drag it into the upper left corner of my artwork. It doesn't matter what corner you start with, just make sure you go through it consistently. Now I'm going to select both that path and the group and come down to Object, Clipping Mask, and Make, and that's going to contain that artwork within that box that I created. And now I need to reflect this twice, both across the vertical and the horizontal axis. It doesn't matter what order you do it in, you just need to do it both times. So that's our basic steps, and we're going to repeat that 3 more times. So I will make layer 2 visible. I will select layer 2 and I will create a new 4 by 4 inch square. Hit OK, make sure it's right in the corner. And I need to select both the path and the group from my layers panel. Come up to Object, Clipping Mask, and Make. And now we have to reflect it across both the horizontal and the vertical axis. And remember, it doesn't matter what order, just do them both. This is a very repetitive process, so we're going to do it again. Make layer 2 disappear, show layer 3, select it, create another 4 inch by 4 inch box. Select both the path and the group within layer 3. Come up to Object, go down to Clipping Mask and Make. And now to finish up, we go to Transform Reflect Vertical and Transform Reflect Horizontal. And one last time for good measure, select layer 4, make it visible, create our box, make sure it's positioned correctly. You can nudge it with the up and down arrows on your keyboard. Select both items, the path and the group, make the clipping mask, and do our reflections. So this is the first key steps. So you do your first design, and then we cut it up into these 4 pieces. Now I'm going to make everything visible, and we can see how all of our artwork has now been transferred from the middle to the outward edges. I'm going to create a new layer and just show you that you can continue to design now, and I'll make a couple quick designs, some basic shapes just to give you the idea. And so I'll draw a few objects out. And now I'm going to show you that this will work and will be a repeating pattern that you can use for your class. So I'm going to select all of the artwork by hitting Command A. And I'm going to make this one big group to make it easy to work with. And now I'm going to create a new document to paste this into. So go to File, New. And now I want to make an artboard with 4 artboards. So change that. Make sure it's in this first grid by row option. And I want to change the spacing to none. I don't want any space between my artboards. And make sure you have 2 columns. They should still be 8 inches by 8 inches. Click OK. And now we can see we've got our boards right next to each other. And I can hit Command V to paste my previous artwork into this new document and position all of my art within, and you can see how our pattern repeats across the edges, and you can see how my pink items that I added at the end are also repeated nicely. And this is an easy way to accomplish a repeating pattern for your class assignment. Thank you.